I sleep awfully and always have, so as a young Kelby, I tended to be up at 3 a.m. And when I was little, all I had to fill my long nights was the TV, mainly Cartoon Network. Between midnight and 6 a.m, they had a bunch of shows, such as Robot Boy, Hero 108. I recently learned in America, in the nighttime time slot, they had Adult Swim. We did not have that, but we did have Skatoony. Skatoony was a cross between live action and animated game show that ran on the Cartoon Network from 2010 to 2013 that had children and cartoon competing in this quiz show. The show was hosted by Chudders and the Earl. Chudders is a quiz master who starts every episode with his iconic phrase,
"Has anyone seen my glasses?"
He is really obsessed with the art of quizzing and will not let anything stop, regardless of the danger it puts him in.
Don't go far though, because if we make it out of this hairy situation, we will see if William has what it takes to be this week's champion.
Then there's his co-host, the Earl, who is this cool guy meant to balance out Chudders' nerdy personality. Chudders and the Earl's boss is Charles LaPlante, an awful man obsessed with becoming richer, so he makes Chudders' life hell.
Why ain't you selling more chow to the crowd?
With all his get-rich-quick schemes, but more on him later. Skatoony has 4 rounds. In the first 2 rounds, they drop the lowest 2 scoring contestants. In round 3, the final 2 fight head-to-head to make it to the final round, which is the Skatoony Quiz Champ Challenge. I'm now going to go over the lore of this show. Considering this is a quiz show, you would think there would not be that much lore, and you would be wrong. Let's start by discussing the rounds of the show. The first round is always bang on or bogus, where Chudders will give you a fact or a question, and if it's true, you say bang on, but if it's false, you say bogus. Fairly simple. One of the more interesting rounds is Who Flung Dung, where the gorilla Who chucks special paint at a canvas, and the contestants have to guess what it is, but somehow the contestants always get covered in the paint. I can't imagine playing this round and not even winning. Even if you do win, when they move on to the final round, they don't give the kids a towel. They just have to sit like that the entire time. Another interesting round is the Danger Grid of Doom. The Grid is a robot that enjoys inflicting pain onto others and is also an antagonist in multiple episodes. His round is when the contestants get a right answer, they choose a square for their opponent, and if they get their answer wrong, their opponent chooses a square for them. In the square, there's either gross slime or minus points, and it's very tense. There were a lot of rounds in the show that ended with the contestants either covered in paint, slime, food, or special gorilla paint. At the end of each round, the 2 lowest scoring contestants get launched out of the studio with a song called You're Out of Here.
Thanks for playing, but you're out of here!
They get launched into different buildings in the town of Showtown, where Skatoony is set, or sometimes other places depending on where the quiz block is. Here's a list of every single place that the contestants were launched into, but here are some of the most notable ones in my opinion. In the episode Quizu, the contestants were launched into Africa, Australia, or the North Pole because Chudders and the Earl were using the ejection to free the animals from the awful zoo Charles, their boss, was running, and the kids were also sent there. All the kids were from North America, so let's hope they can swim home. Some of the kids were sent to Robo World, where they got turned into robots. There was Planet Dung, which is where they were launched when the quiz block ended up in space. I do not know how they got home, don't question it. There's also the Giant Frog Factory, but this was in a dream. The contestants may be dead, we'll never know, because when they woke up from the dream, all the contestants were gone. There are a lot of reoccurring characters in Skatoony. Almost every cartoon contestant has also been an audience member in the show, but there are some characters that stand out more than others. Dabs Lumen was introduced in the episode Pirates, where his body was used to stop the quiz block from being stolen, and no one even thanked him when they ruined his body. He later continuously abused in the episode Who Loves You Baby, where they popped his body to use him as a countdown for one of the rounds. And every time this balloon appears on screen, I know he's going to have an unfortunate time, and I felt so bad for him. Next on the interesting reoccurring characters is Fernando, who is a very questionable depiction of a Mexican magician. But the way they use his powers normally results in the child contestants doing more in the episode than they regularly do, so I just had to mention him. First appearance in the episode Body Swap, every time he lost, he swapped bodies with one of the contestants that made it to the next round, including the final round where he pretended to be the finalist.
I'm positive he's Fernando.
No, let me check. Ow, no.
This was the first time when the kids were required to do more than just slightly react to stuff. This girl was putting on a performance. She had to pretend to be possessed by this man. He also appeared in the episode Freak Show, where we find out he turned all the contestants that got ejected into animal hybrids and then kidnapped the still playing contestants to transform them as well. Fernando's character is not used every time they want to make the contestants do more. They haven't done it without him, like in the episode Cafe Le Quiz, but these were just really noteworthy notable to me for how different they are from the usual Skatoony format. Finally, we have Heatherly Diddly Dee, who is Chudder's Scottish arch enemy. His first appearance was in the episode Quizzator's Gladdy Host, where he challenges Chudder for his job as host, and because Charles hates Chudders, he lets Headley win.
Hey, don't I get any protection?
Sure you do.
But immediately regrets it when he starts making the contestants bark and do a bunch of strange things, so he hires Chudders back immediately, who then gets rid of Headley. He later comes back disguised as the pop singer Goldie Pop in the episode Stop the Pop. He tries to ruin Skatoony by getting rid of Chudders, trapping the Earl in a cage and pretending not to hear the contestants' answers, but he eventually gets caught. He finally got his wish of being host in the episode Quiz to the Future, where all quiz shows were banned in the future, but he got to host this show about pencils. He was also later tortured in that episode, but oh well. In the episode Unusual Suspect, where he came back as a contestant called Nedderly Diddly Doo, where he steals the prize for that episode, which is a chocolate statue of Charles, he is caught by almost being crushed to death at the end of the episode, which I did find funny. Now to talk more about the awful man who owns Skatoony, Charles LaPlante. He is introduced in the second episode of Skatoony called Invasion, where we can see him verbally abusing poor Chudders. Charles has also been known to fix the games for several reasons, such as in episode 3, I Stink Therefore I Am, he tried to stop Poshbot from being ejected because she was attractive. He also later rigged the games multiple times for his nephew CJ.
CJ, go!
He started multiple fraudulent companies throughout the show, like his sports academy. He is a confirmed supervillain and threatened to blow up Showtown to scare away the competition in I Spy You quiz. He also made an amusement park where you had to pay to get off the ride. He is an evil, evil man. A lot of the episodes had themes. The first one was called Night and Days, which had a knight, a princess, and her wizard father. There was a pirate episode where one of the contestants was a pirate and he lost, and he was a sore loser, so he stole the quiz block. This episode also had Izzy from Total Drama Island, and she joined the pirates at the end. One episode that really disappointed me was called Pop Video, where Charles starts a record label and decides to fuse it with Skatoony and make the contestants perform for him. The reason I was disappointed is in the opening of this show, in every episode is Chris from Total Drama Island, but he didn't appear on the show till the third and final season. So I wanted to see this man suffer for what he did to those kids on Total Drama Island. I wanted who dung flung at his head. I wanted him to smash an egg all over his face. I wanted him to drown in the mysterious liquid that the grid of doom sprays out, but I got none of that. Not only did he get kicked out on the first round, so no gross punishment, but he also did not even do the quiz. They taped Chudder's mouth closed in this episode because he's an awful singer, and Chris became host for that round. Then, when he got rejected at the end of the round, he landed in the home for one-hit wonders. In this show, they had a broken glass factory, and in the episode before this, they had the pointy pin factory. But this man who drops children into shark-infested waters, this man who has his own villain wiki, all he got was being called a one-hit wonder. This man had children chased by dinosaurs in the Total Drama reboot, and that's all he gets? Also, whilst we're talking about Total Drama Island, Chef used to work for Skatoony, which is interesting lore, and it was so jarring watching this show because Jimmy Two Shoes and Total Drama Island aired on Disney XD in the UK, and Skatoony aired on Cartoon Network, so watching all these characters interact is weird, but it made sense because all three shows were made by teletoons. There were also holiday episodes such as the Halloween episode where they're not allowed to celebrate Halloween because Charles is easily scared, or the episode Stupid Santa, which was a Christmas episode where they spent the whole episode trying to convince Santa. They moved Christmas to July because they did not have a prize for the end of the show. Also, I'm pretty sure they drugged him with laced turkey in that episode, so Charles is definitely on the naughty list for drugging Santa. The final episode of this show was called Host of Doom, where Charles finally fires Chudders after threatening to fire him for 3 seasons now, and replaces him with the Danger Grid of Doom. The special guest star of this episode is Lucius Heinous VII from Jimmy Two Shoes, which is fitting for this episode as Lucius is the dictator of Miseryville, where he likes to cause misery. Shocking, I know. So when the Danger Grid starts to change things because Skatoony is too fun, he is loving it. Chudders starts working for Dudley, the prop guy of Skatoony. The Danger Grid plan to turn every everyone into robots throughout the episode and started with the contestants from the first round. But Who and Chudders come to save the day, but it's mainly Who, and he beats up the robots and saves the contestants. Nothing too special about the final episode, but Who painted Chudders and himself, which he had never done before, so that was a nice change for the final episode. Now here are a bunch of lore that did not fit anywhere else in this video, but I just wanted to mention it. In the episode It Could Be You, Skatoony goes on the road to look for its contestants and lands in the home of this family, end up destroying their house, kicking out all the residents because they lost the game, and then the army shows up threatening to blow up the house. This family's house is in rubble by the end of the episode, but they all just move on. Chudders has a famous hanky collection. Gwen from Total Drama Island went to a private school. Who ran away with a bearded man to marry, then the bearded man lost all his hair and Who fell out of love.
Bang on is what Oop-de-Doop thinks.
They had an evil version of Iggle Piggle that was controlled by this guy, and turns out he wasn't evil.
Hey, you got rid of him.
Yeah, he was dragging me all kinds of bananas.
They had a Rasta Mouse parody episode. The moon in Skatoony is shaped like an alien woman because Depot over here tried to woo her with a sculpture of her face that he carved into the moon, and it didn't even work. In the episode Quiz to the Future, they abandoned the contestants that were ejected in the past and future, so there's no way for them to get home. Even in the episodes where they were in space and they were ejected, at least they had a shot of getting home. They can't time travel. The shows were slightly rigged in the sense that a cartoon never made it to the Skatoony Quiz Champ Challenge, so if the third round was between a child and a cartoon, we all knew the cartoon would lose, regardless of how well that cartoon had been doing the past 3 rounds. The Skatoony Quiz Champ Challenge was the final round where the contestants had 90 seconds to answer 10 questions right, and at the 45-second mark they stopped it to give Earl's halfway deal, where he would offer points in exchange for a time deduction. Some would take it, some wouldn't. The Earl always seemed really hurt when they didn't take the deal, and the audience would sometimes audibly gasp.
No deal.
The prize in season 1 was always an iPod Touch, but after the first season, they did not tell us what the prize was. So if anyone who appeared on this show who won in season 2 or 3 could tell me their prize, I would be eternally grateful. I want to know. I did also notice that after season 1, Skatoony Quiz Champ Challenge questions got more difficult and a larger percentage of finalists did not win. I'm assuming that they gave away too many iPod Touches in season 1. I would like to mention Kira over here. In the episode Quizzoo, she became the first and only person to ever win Skatoony Quiz Champ Challenge in the first 45 seconds alone, and that is really remarkable. If you're from the UK, then you might be thinking you misremembered this show because you do not recall the cast of Total Drama Island and Jimmy Two Shoes being in it. Or you might not remember Charles at all. That is because in the UK we had a different version of this show. The UK version of Skatoony was actually the original show. It started in 2006 and ended in 2008. The original show started on the Cartoon Network UK website, where they had games like Skatoony Truckatoon, where kids would watch the network and at some point the Truckatoon numbers would appear on screen and they would call in and maybe win a truck full of prizes. There was also Skatoony Quizmas, which was a Christmas themed game that they would get multiple choice questions for a prize, but this one was only for cartoon characters. There's also Ready Steady Skatoony. I actually have no idea what this game was, but you could win a prize and they appeared to be cooking. I will link the advert below. You can watch it. I have no idea what they are saying. And lastly, there was Skatoony Balloony, where if you know where the hot air balloon crashed, you call in and you might get a prize. The UK and North America shows are pretty much the same story each episode. The key differences are, in the UK we only had original cartoon contestants, no characters from other TV shows, and the host boss in the UK, we had Tony Eagle Eyes instead of Charles. I vividly remember Tony because he always had this hot dog that was clearly meant to symbolize a cigar, and he also had his nephew in the show called TJ instead of CJ. Other changes were the names of things, like in the North American version, one of the places the contestants were ejected into was the Dirty Diaper Factory, but we don't call them diapers in the UK, so it was called the Used Nappy Dump. Since both Skatoonies are the same, just the contestants that are different, there are some editing errors where you can see Tony's arm instead of Charles's, like in the episode Halloween, where Charles interrupts a Halloween themed episode and puts a cork on this vampire's fang. It's clearly Tony's arm. There's also actual variety in the prizes in the UK one. In season 1 they got a Sony PSP or an iPod. In season 2 they got a Wii, and season 3 they got an iPod Touch, a Nintendo DS, or a chocolate scale model because it melted in the show. You probably got one of the other 2 prizes. The UK version of the show was also used in the Arabic, Hindi, German and Australian versions. You might be wondering why I chose to do the majority of this video on the North American one over the UK one. It was simply because the North American one was in 1080p and the UK one looked like it was made on a toaster. I will end this video by talking about about some of the most interesting facts either in the series. 1. Bell peppers have more vitamin C than an orange. In addition, I found out Americans are boring. How is the most popular ice cream flavour in your country vanilla? And now correction. In the episode Quiz to the Future, they ask what do they travel through in Doctor Who? And the kid says space. And Shadow said that is wrong and that the answer was time. But the Doctor does travel through space and time. Famously, it is in the name of the ship that he drives. The TARDIS stands for time and relative dimensions in space. Both of those were viable answers and that kid should have got the point. This is the second video in a row where I've spoken about Doctor Who. I would like to mention that Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus were all canonically in the world of Skatoony as they were answers to the questions. Do you think Shadows has watched the Hannah Montana movie? He seems like a fan. Anyway, that will be all. I hope you had a great day. Tell me if you remember Skatoony. Goodbye.